Welcome to another episode of the Three Falls Podcast with Matt Pepper and Derek. Look at that. I put you first. See, that's what the excellent co-host I am. I put your name first on the marquee, Matt. How do you feel about that?
That's the first time that's happened in like 13 years, but that's cool.
It's because we all know who the star is. And it's the other guy that's joining us, Mr. Michael Ponga. Welcome back.
Speaking of stars, I'm guest hosting again. That's great. That's good. I'm good to be back. Thanks for having me.
All right, I got a question for both of you. So this is how we're going to do it, okay?
Oh.
It's a quick question, elimination type, okay? Now,
Okay.
I'm going to ask one question. Matt, you have to say, it'll make more sense once I ask the question, but you say the first word, then Mike has to say the second word, you the third word, and so on. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So your question, gentlemen, this week, in the beginning of the theme song for The Shield, there are words said.
Oh.
What are those words, Matt? You go first. S.
Oh man, I love that show. I'm not trying to.
Show. Theme song.
No,
Come on, Matt.
Not show. Wrestlers. Dean Ambrose.
The Shield. I thought you read the show.
No.
With
Why
Vic
would I be
Mackey.
talking about that on a wrestling podcast?
All right.
Oh my God.
I think he's eliminated already.
All right.
Mike, you
I
go
know-
first
no, I-
because this
I
guy
know.
has to go chase Bessie, his cow who escaped and is running down the street. So Mike, S, go.
Sierra.
Matt,
Hotel.
Mike.
India.
Echo.
Lima.
Delta.
Shield.
Shield.
Yeah. Good job, boys. Good job.
I still like Vic Mackey from the Shield, though. Just so you know.
Oh my God.
What did you say? Like what?
Vic Mackey.
I heard another.
Oh my God.
Anyway, welcome everyone to another episode of Three Falls Podcast. This week we will be talking about our main event, which took place May 7th, I think it was, 1989. What was the show called? Matt?
Wrestle War.
Wrestle War,
WC.
but it was Music City Showdown, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And it I swear I watched it. It was
From
Ric
Nashville,
Flair,
Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee. Ric Flair taking on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and on the line, the NWA title, world title, right? It wasn't NWA though, was it? It was just a world title.
World heavyweight
It was
title.
still the NWA title at the time.
All right, but we will be talking more about that later in the show.
Oh, I'm excited
First-
for that.
We got to talk about what's going on in today's professional wrestling. So Matt, take it away.
In today's professional wrestling. How about we do your favorite segment real quick?
Sure.
Let's do some birthdays.
Oh no! I don't know why I said sure to that. I thought it was another segment, like, let's talk about how great I am. But okay, whatever.
I'll run through some names real quick, and if you want to talk about one or two of these, you go right ahead.
All right. I hope I heard about half of these people.
You have. So October 16th, 1938,
Oh, Jesus.
Bulldog Bob Brown was born.
Oh, is this Bulldog Bob?
Yes, it is.
You know what's funny? That's an impression of an impression.
I love it.
All right, I like this. This is off to a great start because you know what? That was my favorite part of Killing the Town, Don Callis and Lance Storm's old podcast.
Yes.
Was the Bob Bauer impressions. So, great start.
Next one, born on this date in 1963, one of the original divas of professional wrestling, Missy Hyatt's birthday,
She was born in what year?
1963.
Wow.
Right.
All right.
Missy Hyatt.
I do want to add to this. Back in like the late 80s, early 90s, like no one touched her in, like, not even just in wrestling, but in like pop culture or Hollywood or whatever. Like she had a Hollywood look. I thought WWF too. They try to get her, or they were going to have her.
She was there very briefly.
Yeah, very briefly.
She
right?
had a talk show called Missy's Manor.
Yeah,
And
this
it
was in
was
the 80s.
Yeah, and it didn't last very long. They pulled her from that, and then they were gonna make her part of. Do you remember the Federettes?
Yes,
She was gonna be a part of that.
the fat girls that were with like Bobby Heenan.
No, they were like, I don't know, it's supposed to be ring girls or something. I don't know, man.
No, what's the Federettes like? On Tuesday Night Titans. Those. Oh no, those were those sisters.
There you go.
Oh yeah, Mike, just keep that picture up on your camera the entire show, okay?
Okay. No problem. There you go.
It's although it's kind of
better
creepy
looking than me,
looking
so.
at a picture of Missy Hyatt and having your voice come from it.
Anyway, I was just gonna say Missy Hyatt. She played like the dumb blonde bimbo type character, but in a professional way where she had her own corporation. She was like one of the original female managers in.
So, well, I got one question before we move on.
So who's
'Cause I don't know.
manager? Sorry, I was just gonna ask. Who did she manage? Like who was?
She managed originally Hollywood John Tatum. That was, I think, her boyfriend when she got into wrestling.
Okay.
They broke up, and she went with hot stuff Eddie Gilbert.
Well, she married him,
married.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I was reading.
And
Yeah.
split. She managed teams later. She was the Nasty Boys manager.
Okay. Oh, okay. The Nasty. Now, what year was the Nasty Boys? Because I think
early 90s.
Early 90s. Were they in WCW at that point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I think I remember her briefly with the Nasty Boys. That's why I was like, when I looked at the picture, she didn't, you know what I mean? It didn't come to me, and then I saw when you said the Nasty Boys, I was like, okay, I do remember them having a blonde like.
Now she was in ECW, right, Matt?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to talk about that.
Why did she? What happened with WWF?
They didn't want to use her in that interview role, and she
But
didn't
why?
want to.
Like you would think
it didn't go well in front of a live crowd, and they didn't. They were impatient on it, from what I understand.
All right.
Well, so, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people that's happened to. I'm sure. Like you really have to be at the top of your game, with stuff like that, especially in front of a live crowd. Like you can't just, you got to be right quick.
Do you know how she left WCW? I'll just end that on that.
Is this early 90s WCW?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy, no, I don't.
So we were talking about the Nasty Boys. She managed the Nasty Boys, and there's a famous match. I can't remember who they were wrestling, but it was kind of like a no rules type match. And there's a spot in the match where she's on the ring apron, and she has a wardrobe malfunction.
Oh no!
And anyway, she went to the WCW office. That's what Missy said, and she put this in her book. And she wanted to talk to WCW about it, make sure it was removed from any, future stuff. And she went in Bischoff's office, and she said that there was a picture in his office of the wardrobe malfunction, like on the wall. So then she sued WCW.
Holy cow.
She filed a lawsuit, and like most people in WCW in the 90s, when they filed lawsuits, they tend to get money out of that. So,
all right.
If you ever file lawsuits in WCW, that's an interesting thing. Anyway, we'll go through just a couple quick ones here.
I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying it this week.
It was a good discussion. Here's one, Derek. 1965, The Renegade.
Oh, is this the Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He's dead now. He's been dead for a long time.
Long time. He, I believe he committed suicide.
Yeah, sad story.
Yeah, he was getting a lot of fame, big push real quick, and unfortunately, I don't think he was ready for the spot he was in. Liz Mark Jr., if you remember him from WCW.
Do I ever?
1972.
LWO for life.
Oh, and here's my favorite wrestler, Kenny Omega's birthday.
Oh, I did see that on AEW's Instagram. Yes, I did see that.
What day was his birthday?
What day? Today.
Today?
Yeah.
16th.
The
Oh
16th.
wow! We should do an all Kenny Omega show, a themed show.
You can do that by yourself.
Oh.
So his
Well, I
birthday.
can help you if you want, Derek, but
He's an 83 birthday, and then the last one from NXT UK, Zaya Brookside's birthday, daughter of Robbie Brookside,
She's 22.
born in '99.
She's 22 years old. I saw that on Twitter.
There you go. And
never mind.
that was it for the birthdays, and then just on this date was actually Stu Hart passed away on this date in 2003.
Wow. You know what? I remember that day that he passed away.
I
wrote a blog on my website. I don't have this website no longer, and there's no
shoot,
paywall on this website.
No paywall. I would have paid to read that.
I bet you would have paid.
Yeah,
what's that supposed to mean?
Derek would have an OnlyFans with one fan.
Not me.
You just only fan.
All right, let's move.
I get that now.
Let's move on with move on with the show here.
So Stu Hart. Okay. Wow. I remember that very, very vividly when he. There's only a few deaths in wrestling that I remember as growing up, and even back even 8-10 years ago, more than now. I mean, what? That's 16 years. That's 16 long. Well, 2000. No, I think
it's almost 20 years. It's like 18 years. Maybe 17.
17
yeah.
years. There you go, 17. I was just trying to do the math in my head there. But yeah, no, I remember that. But anyways, okay.
All right.
I got a question, Matt, for you.
Oh,
yes,
boy.
go ahead.
Why is it whenever we do this segment, it always ends on like a sad note or somber note? Every single time, I swear.
It doesn't have to be sad and somber. You should remember good memories of somebody passing away.
Yeah, and it's not always a death with him.
You know what I remember, Stu? Do you remember? I think it was Survivor Series. Remember when he managed all his sons?
Yes.
And he came out and he's wearing an old Boston Bruins jacket. Yeah. That was so cool. And he gave Shawn Michaels the big forearm. I wish he would have put a little extra on that. But
so wait a minute. You thought it was
Jerry
cool?
Lawler's,
Hold
Jerry
on.
Lawler's jokes about Stu.
Oh yeah.
You as a Leaf fan thought it was cool that Stu Hart, a Canadian, was wearing a Boston Bruins jacket.
Punga.
Wow.
They were in the Boston Garden.
So?
Actually, a lot of Canadian. I will say this because I've noticed this lately. If you want just quick hockey thing that I've noticed, there's a lot of Canadian Boston Bruins fans, and a lot of that has to do, I believe, Bobby Orr.
Yeah.
I would say.
No, he's right.
Yes.
Yeah, Matt, I'm right. You're wrong about hockey.
No, listen. Boston was a part of the original six, so there was a lot of fans of the original six teams.
Right.
And then Bobby Orr was the best player in the world, obviously, for 12 years at least. So.
And who did Stu come out with the jacket every time, or like it was the part of the Survivor Series match, right?
Just that, because they were in Boston.
Oh, okay.
It was the old school hockey jacket. Anyway.
It was given to him just before he walked out. I'm cold. I'm cold.
I think your headset's not tight enough on your head, Derek.
I told my Stu story on here before with the submission hold when a family friend went over there to help him out of his chair.
Yeah.
And he's like, can you help me up?
Actually, while we're talking about Stu, I watched the most recent episode of WWE Storytime, and it had Bret Hart on there talking about growing up as Stu Hart's son.
Really?
Yeah. I highly recommend it because it's the newest season, right? Since Mean Gene passed away, so Jerry Lawler's hosting it. Another fun fact of that episode is Kevin Owens told a story And in the story, he mentioned that he had WWE Network in Canada, even though it was illegal. He told that on there.
I mean, to say that, that's crazy. But I mean, I'm not surprised. Kevin Owens is kind of one of those explicit, like gives no shits. You know what I mean? Like,
no, he's a wrestling fan and he wanted to watch wrestling, just like
I get it. No,
yeah.
But what I'm saying is he doesn't care what he says or how he says it. That's what I'm getting at.
You know, my favorite Stu story is that one that Brett tells when Owen was pranking him in the hotel room.
Yes, with Reggie Parks.
Oh my god!
If you want to try me, then try me.
Yeah, and he's like, Owen's getting him going, saying, I could have took you. Stu's just pacing.
I wish I would have been able to meet him. That was.
Oh, I wish you would have been able to meet him too.
Oh yeah, me too. I would love Punga down in the dungeon.
Yeah. Hey, let me show you something. Come here.
Oh, okay.
You're a tall one, aren't you?
You're a tall one, eh?
You're real lanky.
You're a mouthy bastard, aren't you? Come here. You want to move to the States, eh? I'll tell you. I'll show you.
Anyway.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, let's move on. Any news
Derek,
on that?
Yeah. There is a report that came out. WWE may not run any live event shows until 2022. Just want to get your thoughts on that because we're not done 2020 yet.
That's hard to see because with the way like AEW has fans, football has fans, and especially didn't Florida just come out saying that they'd be cool if WWE had fans?
Yeah.
Like what? I mean, are you talking like Raw, SmackDown, like any live tape
event? Okay. So house shows.
Okay. Oh, just house shows?
House shows, touring.
Oh yeah, that's believable. I thought you meant actually having fans like in the building.
No, I think they'll do that for probably TV.
Yeah.
To some capacity, but it sounds like they're, and I don't know if it's going to be that long, but the report was that they don't think they may not be running until 2022.
Oh, that's completely believable because I can see 2022 too. It might even be longer because you got to imagine like the traveling and everything. And I don't even just mean the wrestlers. I mean like, all the workers, the setup and all that. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, you know what I think, and I don't know this for a fact. I haven't read anything on it. I suspect that they'll probably change the live event format and cut down the amount of dates depending on how things go. Because currently their live events run from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then they go into TV on the Monday. I'm just curious if they're going to cut down the amount of live events in a year. To me, you should have live events still, especially for smaller markets, and get talent in front of crowds that aren't working regular TV. To me, that's the point of a house show. And obviously you sell merch and everything, but I just, obviously the big thing with wrestling is the schedule, especially with WWE. WWE's schedule, even though it's not as bad as it once was, it's still pretty demanding. So I wonder with the pandemic if that's changed their perspective a little bit on that.
Well, I think like with the fans too, like I think they're getting used to the Thunderdome. I mean, it's a temporary concept to get, fans interacting again with the crowd, but it's just, or with the wrestlers, but it's not, you're right, Matt, it's not the same, right? Like the wrestlers, like they want to hear that live crowd, like they want to be able to get themselves over, face or heel. I mean, I don't think it should be till 2022, but I mean, if they have to start getting organized and stuff like that over the course of the next, 6 to 8 months, then yeah, you will see it in 2022. But, I guess we'll see what happens.
So Raw Underground's reportedly done now.
Woo!
It had a 7-week run on TV.
And only
It was
one of those weeks was passable.
Well, for the whole segment, yes. There was some good stuff on it, but it was very inconsistent, unfortunately.
So are we going to see Dabba Kato on Raw now? Like, didn't he get drafted? I saw that other guy got drafted, the Ruiz Spider guy.
Yeah. Well, he was on NXT, I believe, before.
Yeah, he was.
Dabba Kato, yeah, I believe he got drafted.
Did you know that? Hey, did you know that Dabba Kato like wrestled for like what was it? I think Evolve.
I didn't know that. I knew that Rua did.
Yeah, no, Dabba Kato did.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it. I was on the network and I was going through one of the shows just to see what was on there, and sure enough, Dabba Kato had a match.
So, I mean, I wonder what they're gonna do. Like, out of that, like, would Shane be a part of anything going forward since Dabba Kato was like his guy? I wonder if he's gonna be involved with him at all.
You know what the worst part about it was?
What's that?
There was no blow off, no payoff. Like, why were these guys going and fighting on Raw Underground? What was it? Was it money? Was it like what was the purpose? Was it just a fight? Why couldn't they do that in the ring or backstage?
Yeah, I think you're right. If they would have had some kind of incentive for fighting, it would have been. You know what, they
have like a tournament at the end and have like the King of the Underground or something like that.
But what I read, I think the reason for the cancellation was
no one liked it.
No, not that. It was you know how they had the crowd around the ring?
Yeah.
A lot of them were NXT talent, and they wanted to separate them from. They wanted all the talent separated from different shows.
Yeah.
They were, you have people really close together on that. But now I think about it, I still think the actual concept of it is good. I wonder. See, that's something where you wonder if they could have just did something like that for the network, because that way it's, you know what I mean? Because
like a special.
Yeah, because you got time to play with it, right? And you can pretty much make it anything you want. You're restricted on television.
I would have had a tournament.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I think?
Underground tournament.
You know what I think hurt it a little bit too was when they started including like main event guys like Braun on it.
Yeah.
Because to me, you were building guys on it, like because Riddick Moss looked pretty good on that.
Yeah.
You had Dabba Kato, who you were building as like this destructive force.
Even Dolph Ziggler.
I was gonna say he looked awesome on that show.
He was, to me, he was the guy where people who may have not have taken him seriously before just thought like he was just very one-dimensional. They saw his like amateur wrestling background because he was a starter at Kent.
Yep. Yeah, he was. That was
Kent State.
He had a really good amateur career, so that worked out pretty good for him. I just want to touch on one thing is so obviously Ring of Honor's been running shows with their Pure tournament, and recently they've had like their own bubble going, but they had to pull talent off their current TV tapings because COVID-19.
Oh wow, I didn't hear about this.
Yes. So do you know they had the big independent show, like the Collective? I think it was GCW this past weekend.
Yeah.
So there was a bunch of positive tests from that show.
Oh, surprise.
Right? So number 500 in PWI, Dan the Dad was one of them. Which I love that name. I'm not mocking him for the positive test, but anyway, AC.
Well, you know what?
Banner Man.
I'm not upset with him. I'm just very disappointed.
Well, anyway.
You know what? You're a dad, so I'm just gonna take that as a dad joke.
So on that Collective show, they had talent from other companies, including John Moxley on that show.
Yeah, and Impact. I know, like Ethan Page was there.
Right.
Oh, really?
So
there was some sort of drama with that, but we won't talk about that.
This is kind of what we talked about before, where these indie shows are running and signed talents are going to them. Where I can't understand if you were running a company that you would put your talent at risk like that or allow them to do that.
At the very least, why aren't you having like protocols in place? Like, why aren't you testing these indie guys, like, or like whatever roster of guys you want on the show, male or female, put your COVID protocols into place. Everyone else is doing it. Like I don't understand, to protect everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what all the protocols are for a show like that. I imagine they're not. They're not going to be like WWE.
Well,
right?
They're not going to be far off from a signed show like WWE or Impact or AEW.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I just think it raises questions. If you were, AEW, or do you allow your talent to work these shows? I know it's an extra payday. I know it's visibility, but you do run into.
I think for the most part, you're thinking about the payday, I guess. But like where.
But then
like,
again,
do you say, okay, hold on, you are our champion, or you were on this show, you are visible on our show week to week to week to week, right? On a week basis. This is one indie show that you may get paid, not even paid, but like you might get seen by so many people. Like, is it worth it? We've heard reports that this test and this test being positive. Like, do you warn those signed talent? You know what I mean?
Ring of Honor is actually doing very strict protocol, stricter than all the companies, believe it or not. So when they have their TV tapings, they're actually in a bubble. They're actually doing a bubble like the NHL and NBA did.
Okay.
So when you come in, you test, you stay for the tapings for however long they're doing them.
Right.
So that's how Ring of Honor's been doing it. So obviously, whatever talent tested, they weren't allowed in the bubble, and they had sent them away.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, I just thought this is. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of questions and unprecedented things that come up. So it's an interesting time in the world where you have other states that are opening up where they're doing indie shows, and it's I don't know. It's an interesting time. So ROH has had to rewrite their upcoming TV because of changes to their roster.
I mean, I'm sure, like I say, I'm sure that there's been some changes in WWE as well, like as far as not big title matches, but I'm sure that people staying home because they people testing positive, the wrestlers, there were a couple of cases, I believe. I don't know offhand names, but there were a few. But yeah. Oh.
Yeah, and just to end that too, there was obviously the GCW's put out a statement. There was some positive tests.
Okay.
So obviously, this is going to be tough going forward for indie companies to.
Oh, for sure.
Run. All right, so let's get on to our ding 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 main event. Hey, like that.
Ooh.
So this week we are going to talk about Wrestle War 1989 Music City Showdown. It took place May 7th, 1989 from the Nashville Municipal Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee. So
Nashville.
Let's play a little game. Let's guess the attendance.
Okay.
Closest without going over wins. Matt, your guess.
Well, I've seen some empty seats in that building. 15,000.
Mike?
Probably not a very big arena. You said 15? I'm going to say 28,230.
And I'm going to say one fan. One fan. And let's open up, see who the winner is. And ding, 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 it's me. Because I was the closest without going over. The gate, the attendance was 5,200 people.
Wow.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
So let's take a look at what was going on in the world in May 7th, 1989. Let me just open up this. Let's go take a look at the movies. Can you guys guess? Okay, so you guys won't get what was... Actually, you would. Okay. Let's take a guess of what was number one at the box office.
1989?
Yeah, I was looking at movies from 89 because I knew we were going to discuss this, but I don't know in May. So it's going to be interesting.
Okay.
All right. So let me think. Okay, I'll give you it's a horror movie. Okay?
Okay.
Mike, no twittering. No looking it up.
Okay.
Horror?
So
Yeah.
it's a. So is this the number one at the box office?
Yes.
As a horror movie.
Yeah. When this
1989.
show was taking place, this was the number one film at the box office.
Horror
I'm
movie.
gonna go with the Friday the 13th movie.
Good choice. Good choice. Mike, anything?
I don't think this is correct, but along that line, I'm going to say Child's Play.
Oh, another good guess. Now, where you guys wanted to go was the Stephen King route.
Oh.
It.
No, Pet
Oh.
Cemetery.
Oh,
Pet
was number one.
Cemetery.
Good God.
Wow.
It was number one April 23rd to May 14th. And the movie that it beat out was Major League.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, the movie that knocked Pet Cemetery off its place for only 2 weeks was a comedy called See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Is that with Richard Pryor?
Yes, it is.
I remember. Wasn't it like one of them was blind and one of them was deaf. I think. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Yeah, I just remember. I think Richard Pryor was blind and he was driving a car or something. If I remember correctly.
All right, let's head to music. Mike, I dedicate this to you
Okay.
because
Boy.
Oh, boy.
I'm so the 2 weeks because it kind of overlapped. Okay, the 2 weeks. The first song is "I'll Be There for You" by Bon Jovi,
Oh, I'll be there for you too.
and then the second song before it, I also dedicate to Mike,
Oh,
is "Like a Prayer" by Madonna.
like a prayer.
Right on.
Touch for the very first time,
Wow.
like a. But anyway, so those were at.
That's two different songs.
Clear.
Oh yeah.
That's like a virgin.
Someone
That's a
knows
prayer.
it's Madonna.
Yeah, it is what if you're like conflating two different songs.
It's living on a
and
prayer and like a
dedicating
virgin.
It's just like a prayer.
No, it's like a prayer. It was Grado's theme song, wasn't it? Like a prayer. I'll
Yeah.
take you there. Hold my hand. Or something like that. Grado's. That's his theme song.
Grado, yeah.
Anyway, other songs that were hot in this time frame were Wind Beneath My Wings by Bette Midler and I'll Be Loving You by the New Kids on the Block.
Nice.
I looked up a couple here too, Derek.
All right.
Every Rose Has Its Thorn by Poison.
Nice.
Here's one for you. Girl, You Know It's True by Milli Vanilli.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into what was going on in the world in May of 1989. Mike, 135-acre Disney's MGM Studio theme park officially opens to the public in Lake Buena Vista, Florida.
Very
Do you know
nice.
that place at all?
Yes, it was formerly MGM Studios, now Hollywood Studios.
And Matt, didn't WCW have anything to do with that?
Yeah, they used to tape worldwide and Disney.
Yep.
So May 1st, 1989 opened. May 11th, this 217th and final episode of the TV soap Dynasty is aired.
Wow.
May 14th.
That's a long-running show, yeah.
Final TV episode of Family Ties airs on NBC with 36 million viewers.
Yeah. Michael J. Fox, baby.
Not 5,000 viewers. That was bad. Anyway, so May 24th, this is pretty big going on the movie front. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, directed by Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, premieres. And that's the one that would knock See No Evil, Hear No Evil out of the box office. I got some hot points for you, Matt. NHL's New York Rangers fired GM and coach Phil Esposito.
Interesting. Wow. I know who won the Stanley Cup. You don't even need to ask me.
Oh, we'll be getting to there.
All right.
But first, May 24th, Weird Al Yankovic records his UHF soundtrack. May 25th, Stanley Cup Final, Montreal Forum, Montreal, Quebec. The Calgary Flames beat the Montreal Canadiens 4-2 to win the series 4-2 for the Flames' first Stanley Cup title.
And do you know who scored the winning goal?
Phil Esposito.
No, it was Doug Gilmore.
Oh, Dougie Gill. You know what? Why didn't you give me a hint? I would have got that.
You know who retired that year from Calgary?
Hmm.
He's known for a big mustache.
Eddie Shack?
No.
No.
Hold on.
But he is.
Hold on.
He is just.
Joel Quinville.
No. Also has a mustache.
Wait. The mustache.
Who retired? What was the question again?
Oh,
You know who retired from the Calgary Flames after they won
Wendell
the cup?
Clark.
No. Wendell Clark.
Hold on.
Yeah, I just said mustache. You guys are naming everybody in the league that mustache.
Mustache.
Shoot.
Why mustache you this question?
Did he play? What was? Oh, I was gonna ask him what was the previous team that he played on.
Just tell us.
All right.
Gary Bowman.
So it was, no.
He played for Calgary.
Oh
no.
Jesus.
It was Lanny McDonald.
Lanny McDonald.
So
I was thinking of him. And I couldn't figure out the
year. He wanted to score his 500th goal, 1,000th point, and win his first Stanley Cup, and he did all three.
Wow! But you know what? He was a good hockey player, but he wasn't elected executive president of the Soviet Union like Mikhail Gorbachev was on that same day.
Really?
Wasn't that the same year where Mr. Gorbachev take down this wall?
I think so.
The Berlin Wall.
The Berlin Wall, yeah.
No, it wasn't. I think it was the next year or the year after. It was like 1990 or 1991. And lastly, but not least, student pro-democracy protesters in Tiananmen Square, China, construct a replica of the Statue of Liberty, naming it the Goddess of Democracy.
Tiananmen Square.
All right, so that's what. So now you have an idea of what was going.
For the Berlin Wall, November 9th, 1989.
That's what I said, right?
You said the year after, the year before.
It was the same.
I don't recall this.
Yeah, I know history. Continue.
You are history. All right.
I knew that was coming.
So now everyone knows what was going on in May of 1989. Let's get on to wrestling in 1989. Matt, I want to know why you picked this match for this week.
Well, I wanted to watch an actual match with storytelling from a different decade. I've been watching these spot fests on AEW, and I seen Flair on TV not too long ago, and I'm like, even though Flair is a bigger mainstream star now than he ever was, I don't think people really grasped how big he was in the 80s, how good he was in the 80s. And I just wanted to watch like an actual storytelling match. And to me,
good one.
To me, the third match in this series is the best match between these two.
Okay, I was just going to go into the background of how this match came together. It all started at the Clash of the Champions. Obviously, we know, it started before that. Sorry. We all know about the history between Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat.
Yep.
Well, they had a match at the Chi-Town Rumble where Steamboat defeated Flair to win the title. Then fast forward to April 2nd, Clash of the Champions 6. Steamboat defeated Flair in a 2 out of 3 falls match, but Flair's foot was on the rope. So it was decided that there would be this match as kind of like the rubber match or to figure it out at Wrestle War. So let's take a look now at other matches that happen on this show.
Oh, I want to talk about one.
Okay, well, if I don't mention it, we'll bring it up, okay? Because guess what? I did extra homework this week. I watched an extra match that was on this show.
Me too.
What?
So let's see if it was the same one, okay?
All right.
So on the show we had the Great Muta taking on Doug Gilbert.
That's what I watched.
Was it this match?
I watched that one too. Yes.
This wasn't the match I watched, but did you guys know who Doug Gilbert was subbing in for?
Oh. I don't know.
Hold on.
Because this match was advertised as a different match.
Yeah, it was Muta versus. Oh, I've lost it now. Shoot.
I don't know.
Remind us, Derek.
So what happened was the Muda was originally supposed to take on the Junkyard Dog, but JYD didn't make it to the show. So what did you guys think of this match? I mean, let's not go into the whole thing. I mean,
no, it wasn't very long, so we're not going into that much. Anyway, I seen Great Muta right at the beginning, and I'm like, I'm watching this because Great Muta, as I've said many times, is my favorite Japanese wrestler. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. Muta at this time.
Mine is Crush.
Favorite Japanese wrestler?
Yeah, Crush.
Anyway, you just throw it. Yeah, was that talking when he had the ninja gimmick?
Yeah, no, Crush when he.
Keep going, Matt. Keep going.
In 1994.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, I seen Muta come out. Muta in '89 was pretty new to North America at that time. He was getting over like crazy.
The crowd did seem like they were like really into.
The crowd wanted him to be babyface so bad, and there's a lot of backstory on why that never happened. But anyway, Muta comes out. He looks like $1 million. Face paint, everything. He just demolished Doug Gilbert in this match. He did a couple cool spots, like where he misses the moonsault, lands it, goes backbreaker, does a moonsault, pins him. It was a pretty quick match, and then he does the mist after the match, just the celebratory mist. Eddie Gilbert comes out, stopped for him from beating up Doug Gilbert. But the crowd, he's a heel, he's with Gary Hart, but that crowd loved Muta.
I know.
And you hear podcasts today where they're talking about why Muta wasn't a babyface, because some companies were still stuck in the mindset that Japanese had to be heels, and there was also talk Gary Hart did not want him to go heel because Gary Hart was managing him. So take that for what it's worth. But I just had to stop. Until I see Muta, I have to watch it.
This was actually, I believe, his first big event because he only debuted with World Championship Wrestling on March 18th, 1989.
Yeah, so he's, like I said, he's pretty new.
So he's pretty new at this point, yeah.
So I think even if JYD was there, the outcome would have been similar, but maybe more of a competitive match. So other matches on the show that are notable, I'm not going to go through the entire card, but there's Dick Murdoch taking on Bob Orton Jr., who was also with Gary Hart. Dynamic Dudes versus a Samoan SWAT team.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Lex Luger taking on Michael P.S. Hayes.
C.S. Hayes.
It's cold here, okay? I'm freezing. I'm shivering.
What are you, in the Arctic tundra?
Michael Michael C.S. Hayes,
You're killing Matt over
He wrestled
there.
in Iowa. He had a great career in Iowa before he got his first big break at Wrestle War 89. And that's the only time. After this, he retired. Anyway, so here's a match that I watched. And it, too, was a short match. But I was very intrigued to see the chemistry. And it was for the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. Or no, it wasn't. It's for the NWA World Television Championship. Again, I'm cold. It was Sting taking on the Iron Sheik. Sheiky baby.
Sheiky baby at this time was a little tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why this match only went 2 minutes and 12 seconds.
The funny thing that I heard was Sheik, I don't know if it's this year, I'm pretty sure it is during the WCWAs, they gave him a big contract and he couldn't do much anymore. And they'd send him home and then his contract would roll over. He's with WCW. I don't know how long he's with WCW for.
Well, this was 89, and I think in 1991 was when he went back to WWF.
Yeah, so he was there for a little while because they sent him home, and then his contract rolled. They were still paying him, so they brought him back to do jobs, and that didn't go well. So they sent him home again until his contract ran out.
Very nice, Sheiky baby.
Well, not every day do you see get to watch like one of the old Sting like Sting that he was like in that leather, like white leather jacket with the kind of like the warrior face paint.
Sting in that era was so popular.
It was kind of weird to watch this match a little bit, but
you watched this match too?
I watched a little bit. Yeah, I didn't watch it completely right to the end, but I did watch a little bit because I saw Sting and Iron Sheik and going, I'm going to take a look at this.
Yeah, that's how I was like. I thought it was interesting because you don't really
see those two
people that you don't really think about crossing paths, right? And I kind of like that. Like I find intrigue in that. So anyway, I'm not going to go throughout the match.
Can you guys skip the dynamic dudes? Like what the heck?
Can you name both the dynamic dudes?
Unfortunately, yeah.
And don't say Derek and Mike.
Yeah. And then other matches were the Road Warriors taking on the Varsity Club and Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner taking on also the Varsity Club, but 2 other members. So this brings us to...
That must have been after the Flair and Steamboat match.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't understand.
I don't remember Rick Steiner, yeah.
So, yeah, it actually that brings us to the next point, the match placement in the show, where this was the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, yet this was the 7th match out of 9. There was 2 other matches afterwards.
Oh, wow.
And so it's kind of weird that they did it like that. I mean, it was for the NWA Tag Team Championship and the NWA United States Tag Team Championship, but yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird because especially after what we know happened after, which we'll get into. But it's just it was very weird. But anyway, Matt, if you'll do the honors, let's break down the match.
Yes. So I also watched the promos for both Flair and Steamboat before the match. So Flair's promo, it's kind of an interesting time with Flair because he's a heel, but he's kind of a tweener at this time.
Yeah.
So he's doing the promo and he's talking about it's his last chance at the title. He Steamboat as one of the greatest champions he's ever been in the ring with. Flair has a lot of conviction. Obviously, when he's talking, he's loud and boisterous and he's very excitable. So the line in the promo, which I think is really interesting in 2020, because he said, when you get in the ring with Ric Flair, you're getting in the ring with the man, and I am the man. Woo! And which is funny because he did a lawsuit against WWE early in the year about the man, which is interesting when you hear this promo. And then he ends it with, you're going to be mine. Woo! Anyway, Steamboat's promo is just a classic babyface promo. It's basic. He's to the point. He says that Flair is the best champion of all time, and they're going to see who the best man is when this is all said and done. So entrances, so Flair's music hits, the crowd pops when Flair's music hits. Again, he's kind of a heel, but it's more of a babyface reaction, I think, when the music hit. So Flair comes down with a bunch of girls. This was pretty funny. He's got 6 girls walking him to the ring, but then he's got 30 girls at ringside, which is just classic Flair.
Oh yeah,
this is the kind of entrance I wanted to when I was a wrestler. If I became a wrestler,
you would have this type of entrance.
It'd be a family reunion when Derek hits the ring.
It's my posse.
No, this was definitely classic Flair, though, Matt. You're right. I was like, I kind of chuckled because I'm like, man, like, and you could hear the Ross go, yeah, he's got 40 people, 40 girls, 40 women, entering the ring with them or whatever, and I'm like, not all of them are going to go in that ring, are they? Like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh gosh, but
I think JR made a comment like, I'm trying to remember how he worded it. He's like, said they're nice to look at or pretty attractive. Or
I'm like, I forget how Lawler there? Like, it's like.
Well, no, Lawler would be a whole different. I think Lawler would have a lot more to say. So Steamboat's music hits, and it's like kind of a mixed pop, like mixed reaction when he comes out. So he comes out, he's got his wife and his son. His son's riding like a miniature horse, and then they walk. It's kind of a weird contrast. So Flair comes out.
And this is the kind of entrance that you would have, Pepper, if you were a wrestler. And I'm not talking about Ricky Steamboat. I'm talking about Richie Steamboat.
Riding a horse?
Yeah. Riding a miniature pony to the ring. Well, biscuits and gravy played on the loudspeaker.
Riding a miniature horse. Well, I would be like a miniature version of Adam Page or something, right? Is that what that is?
Or Jeff Jarrett.
Anyway, anyway, so Steamboat's walking to the ring. It's kind of a mixed reaction. You got to think Flair just came out to the ring with 36 women,
Right.
all in like evening gowns and everything, and Steamboat comes out with his family.
Well, Jim Ross did say like he's a family man. Like he did state that, right? Like
Flair talks about this in his book about how the reaction to Steamboat was lessening as time went on with him with the title because the family thing was pretty, like he's pretty insistent on that.
Bonnie, come on, let's be honest, Bonnie.
Sure, but when you compare the two, Flair comes across as cool, right? Steamboat's cutting promos about his family and all this, and Flair's talking about partying all night with women and having a good time and Space Mountain and all this stuff. And I mean, if you're like a young adolescent male or 20-something male, who's coming across cooler?
Right.
I don't think there's any comparison there. So then they have judges for this match to make sure there's a winner because the last match was indecisive.
Yep.
So the judges for the match was Terry Funk, Pat O'Connor, and Lou Thez. So
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so they all former NWA World Champions from different eras, but all pretty significant in the South. So the match starts. Really good lockup. They're locking up like they're gonna kill each other. A little bit of slow pace to start, but these guys know what they're doing. They know how to build a match.
I wrote down started slow, but not too slow where it was noticeable or bored.
Yeah, exactly. So then they get a couple quick moves in. Steamboat goes to the arm drags. So Steamboat, obviously, anyone that watches wrestling, Ricky Steamboat probably had the best arm drag in the history of pro wrestling. Just so smooth the way he did it. Then they get some chops in. Like Flair's so good, he'll lay a chop in, and he knows how to let it breathe a little bit. So it's like chops him, lets the crowd react to it, methodically goes after him.
I wrote down back and forth chops were fun.
That was the next part. So they get into the chop exchange. So they're going across the ring with the chops. It gets so at first it's like, okay, is this ever gonna stop? But then they slow it down again.
Yeah.
So then they get into test of strength. Steamboat's working the arm. So the announcers are putting over the arm. So how Steamboat works the arm. So this is kind of an early prelude to Steamboat's finisher is the chicken wing. So submission. So he's working the arm.
I have loved Steamboat using the hammer lock. Great move, not used anymore. Steamboat kept working the arm and shoulder, setting up for the double chicken wing.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that hammer lock.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I like the way he does it in the match because he's got the arm and he pulls it down and then cinches back up on it. He's wrenching the arm, and then he takes him down with the hammer lock into a pinning combination.
Loved it.
So he's working the arm and then he's trying to win with a pinfall with the arm.
And the hammer lock's not used anymore in wrestling.
No.
And I think it should be it looks like a painful hold.
Yeah, I agree. And it actually is a legitimate hold too. Apply it. Yeah.
You know what you know what I did enjoy from Flair's perspective though too. Like I don't know what it is about Flair, but I love
Mike, stop talking about the 40 women. You're a married man.
Yes, I am married. Thank you for saying that there. But what I was gonna say was about his knee drop.
Yeah.
I've always liked that when he goes from the corner. He did it a couple times, but the one the first time he had done this after he had Steamboat on the ropes and he was giving him the elbow to his face type of thing, or I think it was the elbow to the face when he was tied up on the ropes, and then Flair did the knee drop to Steamboat. I was like, man, those Like that's back in the day. I wish Flair was still wrestling just to do those moves.
You know what? Just to piggyback off of you, Mike, there, I like the knee drop too. But one thing that I think a lot of people overlook that I really like how Ric Flair does it is his elbow drop. He's always done it, and I don't think a lot of people like really notice about it. But when you really it's usually out of a corner or something. He'll walk, he puts his arm straight up in the air, and then he comes down with the elbow drop. And I just
down on it.
Yeah, I love the fact that he puts his arm right up in the air and then he comes down all the way on that elbow drop where he puts all his weight down on it. That looks so effective instead of just like a regular just jumping up and coming down type of thing.
Flair gets into throwing some nasty looking forearms to Steamboat. And like the first one he hits, it looks like Steamboat looks rocked. And Flair's just throwing him, like just throwing bombs at him with the forearms. Then he gets into some more chops. And then Steamboat makes a little comeback. So Flair does the Flair flop in the ring where he does the face bump.
Oh, love that.
He's back up. Steamboat goes right back to the arm, another arm bar. JR again putting over the arm. So he's softening up for the chicken wing. So JR keeps pumping this in the match. He's working that arm.
I have Steamboat would work over arm. Flair would escape and get some offense, but get cut off, and Steamboat would go back to the arm.
Yeah.
I think at this point was the 15-minute mark, or am I a little ahead of you here?
No, I think you're on point now.
All right, because at the 15-minute mark, we got voting by the judges.
Yeah, you're probably a little bit ahead of me, but yes.
Sorry.
That's okay. I don't have all the judges stuff on here, but you are correct.
I do, and that's why I'm not sure. Like I only have bullet points, so
me too.
Right now, we'll just say that it's at the 15-minute mark. All three judges voted for Ricky Steamboat unanimously.
Yeah, and I like that too because this is playing into the story, right? So if they go the distance, right now Steamboat's ahead. There's a hip toss and then a drop kick over the top. Flair goes over. Steamboat climbs the ropes to jump outside.
Now, was this when Flair went over the top rope?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have a little point here. Referee Tommy Young waved it off, saying it was momentum and not deliberate, because at this point in the NWA, sending your opponent over the top rope was a DQ.
See, that I have that later when it's the opposite, when Steamboat goes over the top.
Okay. But you know what? I'm wrong. Okay, that's what. Sorry.
So Flair
way ahead. Sorry.
Flair gets drop kicked over the top, but it's not a disqualification because he's not being purposely thrown over. Yes. So Steamboat.
I didn't realize that about the top rope thing. That's an interesting thing.
That was an NWA rule until I think the early 90s.
Oh wow.
I think that.
Interesting.
I think they had that up until the mid 90s because they still had it early in Nitro where you couldn't throw someone over. Which in reality, you know what? When you think about it, if throwing someone over the top rope would seriously injure them, why wouldn't everyone just do that? That's why they had the rule in there. It makes sense.
Right.
But anyway, so
and if you get thrown over the top rope, you're eliminated. But both feet must touch the ground.
Steamboat goes to the top rope to jump out of the ring to Flair. Tommy Young calls him off because it's another rule. So here's the thing. They actually have the rules in the match are playing into the story.
Yeah.
And that's something that's missing in a lot of wrestling today. So he calls Steamboat off from jumping outside the ring so he can count Flair.
Who calls Steamboat off?
Tommy Young.
Tommy Young.
Let's see here. So anyway, the action starts again. Steamboat's going back to the arm again. Flair gets some offense in. He does a hip toss on Steamboat, and then he does kind of the cocky pose. He goes for that elbow drop. He misses the elbow drop. Steamboat's back to the arm again. Still working the arm.
Maybe that's why no one talks about the elbow drop, because he always missed it now that I think about it.
Well, he hits one later. So they're in the corner. So Flair's laying in the shoulder to Steamboat. And then he's got Steamboat in a headlock away from Tommy Young's vision and throws a closed fist right in between the eyes of Steamboat, which it's funny when you see stuff like that now, because today's wrestling, you're just allowed to blast the guy in the face 6,000 times, no big deal. But again, there's rules, no close fists to the face, which, by the way, I wish companies would just have this rule because it would actually make sense watching wrestling, or a little bit more sense. So Flair is a master of cheating behind the referee's back.
It's kind of like, just to go back to that punch in the face, it's just like last week's, 2 weeks ago when we talked about the Donahue show.
Yes.
And where they were like, oh, they're punch each other in the face and you don't see any bruising.
Yeah.
And now you said Flair's the master of cheating. Am I getting ahead at this point by saying he did the thing with his leg? Do you have that down there?
I think that's later.
Okay.
I'm sure I have it, but I don't remember where it is in the match.
Okay, well, we'll just talk about it. At some point in the match, he's choking Steamboat or something like that.
On
and
the
Tommy
ropes,
Young,
right?
Yeah, and Tommy Young calls him out on it. So he goes to argue with Tommy Young, but while doing so, he lays his shin across Steamboat's neck, choking Steamboat while he's distracting Tommy Young, which I always thought that was a pretty clever move.
So after he does the close fist to the face, Tommy Young doesn't see it, but he comes over automatically and giving Flair warning on the close fist, which I love that because the referee's showing authority.
Yeah.
If the referee has no authority, what's the point of the referee even being there?
Yeah.
So then Steamboat takes over. He's doing the punches in the corner, but he's doing it like chops to the head, which that's one thing I didn't like with Steamboat. I never liked like the chop strikes to the face or the head that he did. That's the only thing I never really liked with Steamboat. That kind of always, but I can't really knock Steamboat as a rule. Whips Flair to the corner. Flair does the Flair flip, but he doesn't go all the way over. He kind of falls in the corner and then gets stomped. Have some more back and forth. And then this is the part where Steamboat tries to come at Flair. And Steamboat ends up going over the top rope. Flair kind of touched his head and he went over the top rope, and Tommy Young waved it off and said it was momentum.
Yes.
Where Steamboat went over the top. So again, if you purposely throw somebody over the top, it's a disqualification in 1989. So they're outside the ring. So Steamboat's getting up. Flair's on the ring apron, and it's a really cool spot. It's a cool camera shot, too. Flair walks over, and he stomps Steamboat right on the top of the head, which looked awesome. Just boom, stomps him on the head. And then they're on the floor, and Flair chops Steamboat, and he goes over the guardrail. It's a really hard chop, and Steamboat flies over the guardrail, and then he's in front of the fans, and the fans are trying to rally Steamboat. And this match is pretty cool because fans are pretty close to the ring, so their work's got.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Their work's got to be pretty tight, and it's not like security like today either. You don't see like tons of security guards and stuff there.
Look at the guardrail. Like, I mean,
yeah, I
didn't
know.
have much of one, right? Like, back in the 80s, even in WWF, like they didn't, like, let's be honest, they didn't have what they have today, right? So your work and your shots have to be, like you said, Matt, like closed. But
so they get into a chop fest outside, get back in the ring. Steamboat takes over. Flair goes in the corner again. He does the Flair flip over the top rope, this time on the ring apron. Gets caught. Steamboat drops him on the ring apron. Gets him back in the ring. Steamboat does a...
I'm sorry. I was just waiting for this point here. At this point, we got our second voting from the judges.
Okay.
And it was Terry Funk voting in favor of Ric Flair, Pat O'Connor voting in favor of Ric Flair, and Lou Thez in favor of Ricky Steamboat. And at this point, Jim Ross said that if the match was over right now, Steamboat would be your winner.
Oh, wow.
And again, really cool how the announcers are telling that story.
Yeah. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you did.
Well, Jim Ross has always been that storytelling announcer. I love
Well,
that.
a lot of this is Bob Caudle too,
Yeah.
because
That's true. That's true.
because he's talking about he's got his own scorecard that he's doing, so he's really
Yes.
invested in the match, and I love that. I thought that was great. So there's a Steamboat snapmares Flair into another armbar. He's got him down face first on the ground. He's got his arm laid out on the ground, and he's grinding his knee behind his arm onto the mat. So he's really working the arm. Steamboat eventually goes to the top rope. He misses a cross body out to the floor. Flair's got him on the ropes. Does an elbow right to the nose from behind. Flips him into the ring. So this is where Flair does the classic knee drop in the corner. Out of the corner, he rolls off Steamboat's face. One thing on Flair, I think people that watch Flair know this, but Flair never wore knee pads on his knees. They're always under his knees, which is nobody. I don't think anyone else I've ever seen in wrestling does that. But I don't. That was always a Flair thing. More chops. This is where Derek Flair does the choke on the ropes.
Oh, so this is sorry about that.
That's all right. So that's where he's choking him on the ropes, and Flair's classic with how he's getting away with it. Flair then does a belly to back suplex. Flair, and I've seen this with Flair lots of times. Flair had a unique pin he would do once in a while, where it's almost like he's shooting the half. He's got his arm underneath the neck, and then it comes around to the shoulder where he's got one arm underneath him, one on top. Nobody does that today.
I don't know. I noticed that early on in this match too, that he did he wrapped his neck, like he held his cradled his neck with his arm, and then did the pin.
Yeah,
it was very interesting.
So Flair then double underhook suplex. He then hits the elbow drop out of the corner.
Yep.
Doesn't he pins, but doesn't get the pin. Then he's chewing out Tommy Young for the pin. Steamboat makes a little comeback, runs at him, ends up getting the stun gun on the ropes. This Flair's got the knee on Steamboat, choke him at the ropes. Steamboat makes another comeback with some chops. Flair does a suplex on Steamboat from. I think this was that outside the ring. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure he did it outside the ring.
The suplex outside the ring.
Yeah, and then
jumps back in
for a bit. They get back in, but Steamboat suplexes. I can't even read my own writing. It was a suplex into a pin. Basically, I got it written down here. So JR's putting over the score currently at 4-2. I don't know if you have that, Derek.
Yes.
So Flair's on the top. Classic Flair. He's getting reversed off the top. He's bealed off the top rope. Back body drop. Steamboat's making another comeback.
See, that's what I liked about this match is that they would go at a fast pace, but they would slow it down.
Yeah.
And then they go right at the fast pace and slow it down. So it kept you exciting and invested in the match. In WWE nowadays, they kind of do that with some matches, but a lot of the guys, they ease you into the transition, and as a fan, it kind of gets kind of boring.
Steamboat, you're 100% right. Steamboat puts Flair on the top rope. He climbs up. He does the superplex on Flair, which looked awesome. I know that it's probably not an exciting move for people today, but when you see the velocity how you hit the mat, that's pretty vicious in my eyes. Steamboat's going for the chicken wing. Flair counters it, gets into the ropes. Flair, I believe he gets head first in the turnbuckle, another chomp. Steamboat goes to the top. Flair grabs. So Steamboat's going to the top. Looks like he's going to do another crossbody. So Flair reaches for the top rope. He's wobbly. He grabs the top rope and knocks Steamboat off the top rope to the outside. Which
is this? This is where he's going to be favoring his knee now.
That's correct. So Steamboat hurts his leg when he hits the ring apron. So he's outside holding his knee. So at this point, Flair's targeting the leg. Because as we know, Ric Flair's finisher is the figure 4. So Flair he did a delayed suplex on Ricky Steamboat, like the British Bulldog. And that was awesome. So he puts him down. Flair, and one thing I always liked with Flair was how he worked the leg. he would grab the leg and he's pulling on the leg and he's yanking on the leg. He is like going after that leg, wrenching.
I liked. Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Please.
Okay.
Continue.
So he puts the figure 4 on. So he's got him in the figure 4 for a while. Steamboat eventually escapes. JR is putting over the NWA hard on how this is wrestling. We're not coming out to rock and roll music and posing, which I thought was pretty funny. So basically, Flair worked the leg, pounding the leg. Steamboat makes another little bit of comeback. Steamboat goes for a body slam. Flair reverses into an inside cradle. 1, 2, 3.
I thought that was like the chemistry, like the synchronized with that. Like, holy, oh man, the body slam. I was waiting for it. He's got him up, and then all of a sudden it just like rolls over. That was really cool to see those two, get that done. That was neat. But what I was gonna say just before that, while Flair was, what I wanted to say was when Flair had Ricky Steamboat's foot, and it was like he was chopping him, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was chopping him, and he's got Steamboat on one leg, and he's just chopping him. He's favoring the knee, and I'm just like, man, this is like, you wouldn't really see this kind of. It's not that technical, but like at the same time, it's like, it's pretty cool to see the type of chemistry that these two have. That, to put through the story of like favoring the knee in that way, like, putting Steamboat at a weird and odd position with the one leg, right? Like, it's like, okay, are you gonna come out of this? Like, come on now, you know what I mean? But no, all in all, I thought that was a great and in favor of Flair there, right, Matt? I believe.
So when he gets the inside cradle and Tommy Young counts to 3, that crowd pops huge.
Oh yeah. Gosh, yes.
That was a massive pop.
There was like 3 rows of people just standing up.
And like I said, when Flair came out initially, the crowd was wanting him to turn him babyface.
Right.
And I think that match really this is like, you can argue that this is Flair's best in-ring year. It was 89. But I mean, he wrestled Steamboat 3 times, so it's pretty hard not to have a good match with Steamboat. But these guys put it all on the line. Absolutely tremendous. Just the ending came out of nowhere, which I thought was really good, because Steamboat was going after his arm the whole match. Flair was working his leg, and then it's an inside cradle win. So Flair at this point becomes the 6-time world champion. Derek, any thoughts on the match before we get to the aftermatch?
Yeah, I have one thought process I have here, and my favorite part of the match was the selling. I gotta say, Flair sold, and it wasn't my problem with wrestling nowadays is everything's too clean. Everything looks too, you go to a wrestling factory, you learn how to bump properly, how to fall properly, how to leave the ring properly, how to get up properly, how to do this properly. But, which is fine. I understand why that has to be done. But you lose individuality and little nuances when you do the same thing as everyone else. Flair, he got chopped. He slithered out of the ring, fell to the floor. Steamboat, he got hit. He winced, but he didn't sell it like he was getting shot by a gun. I just thought if you're learning how to become a wrestler, go and watch these guys. Watch your selling, because not a lot of people do that. Watch your selling, take notes, and incorporate some of this stuff into your work. The only guy that I like, that I thought their selling's pretty good, is Kevin Owens, and I see a lot of old school selling in him.
Well, it's funny you say that, because there are a few people in wrestling I think are very good at it, but you can only go so far if people you're working can't carry that with you.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. You got a lot of talent today that wants to go 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it tough, because there are throwback wrestlers today, but it's hard when most of the industry is, like you said, not following matches like this, where the selling's a big part of the story.
And see, these guys had fire. Like I said, they would speed it up, have it slow, but speed it up and come back slow again, and then speed it up and come back slow again. But during the whole time, when you're watching them and they're going right, they're fighting, and it seemed like it was a fight. It seemed like it was an actual fight that you were watching, and not like guys jumping off of the rope doing a 450 plancha, hurricanrana, shooting star press.
Well, the other thing too, Derek, when you look at the whole card that happened before this match, no match before this took away from this one. So today, when you watch like a big show, the first match will have like 6 dives in it. So how does matches after that follow this, right?
Yeah.
So the very first match on here was, I mean, Muda was in the first match, but the only high spot he did was the moonsault.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was a quick match, just 3 minutes. So it wasn't like it took away from everything else on the card. And these guys had more time to work with than the other matches, so they could build a pretty good story in the ring. So I 100% agree with everything you just said.
All right.
Yeah, so after the match, so JR comes in the ring, and he's interviewing Flair, congratulates him on being a 6-time champ. Steamboat, he put over Steamboat, and Steamboat limped out of the ring, waved to the fans and stuff. It's kind of odd. It's like Steamboat, here, just get out of the ring type thing.
I think that's what the ref was trying to tell him there too. Like, saw the ref go over to him. He's like, and then he got out of the ring.
Although Steamboat, in later years did talk about that and didn't really like this, because he didn't know that angle was happening after this match.
Okay.
Because he thought maybe they would have another match. So Flair's doing the interview. JR's talking to him. Flair's not being the heel Flair at the end of the match. He's just, happy to be the champion again. Yep. And then Terry Funk interrupts and
kind of congratulates him.
Almost. Terry Funk is a treasure in wrestling. You watch him in this interview, he's tremendous. So Funk's like, hey, I just wanted to congratulate you and stuff, and he doesn't leave, and they're still talking. And he goes, "Hey Rick," he goes, I just wanted to say, like, I wouldn't mind being the first to challenge you for that world championship. And Flair's like, well, Terry, he goes, we got a contenders list, and a lot of people are in line. And then he's like, "Well, you're saying I'm not a contender?" And he goes, "Terry, you've been in LA with Sylvester Stallone for 5 years." He goes, "We got a lot of people here," and he's like, "We got to go through a lot of lists." And anyway, so Funk says, "Well, Rick, I just want to say I was kidding about that earlier." And he goes, "I want to congratulate you and all this," and shakes his hand. Then he pulls him forward and he hits him with the left hand. Boom. Knocks Flair down.
Oh, my gosh.
And then it's on at that point, and Funk is just beating him and throwing him outside the ring, stomping him. And then the famous spot, Funk takes him over to the table. He's on the ring apron. He pulls him over, and he gave him a pile driver on the table that has no give. So Flair falls off the table. And then Funk's just going nuts. And then he's on the mic saying, he goes, "Look at him now. What do you call him? A banana-nosed, horse-faced jerk." Terry Funk is, I could listen to his promos all day too. He was incredible in this. So when you see that and how heated that was after the match, it's like, oh my God, I gotta watch this. I gotta see what happens next. So, and that's kind of how it ended with Flair. He was laid out. Now, Flair said in recent years that he did get hurt off that pile driver because that was a real table.
Yeah, it was very stiff. It was
I
Japanese table
I
indeed.
noticed that too. I was like, oh shit, that didn't break. Oh boy.
I think this was one of the first instances in North America that we saw a table used at all.
Yes, yes. Funk was well ahead of his years in just about everything. Um, you can watch stuff with him. I watched a match in Japan with him where he was doing, or in Detroit where he was wrestling the Sheik, and he did a knee drop onto like a laundry hamper or something, like trying to crush his neck. Like he was doing crazy stuff forever. But this, I would agree, this has to be up there for a first time table spot.
Oh, for sure.
Any final
So then,
thoughts on this match?
I mean, what else can you say? This is a classic.
Yeah.
You had the world championship. You had a rivalry between two guys going back to the 70s. You had Flair, who was the perennial champion. Steamboat came off his WWF run and got into the world title picture. Great story. You had two matches that built the story going into this one. Flair took back the top of the mountain. I don't. If you were like you said, if you were teaching a class, these are the kind of matches students should be watching. They absolutely should be watching it for the psychology of the match, the selling of the match, how to register a move, how to slow it down, let it breathe. It's a masterpiece.
Mike?
You know what? I mean, I don't know if I could ever, say more to what Matt has just said. I mean, he pretty much described the whole match the way I would. My personal opinion is that I love watching the old school matches. I love the 80s. I mean, I think one of my favorite DVD sets is of the wrestling stars of the 80s. Just to watch how things were done, and the chemistry between the guys, building up and stuff like that. But Flair and Steamboat are two of those 80s guys that I loved watching. Still do. I really did like this match and its story. I love to see you know the live crowd like it is. It's not like a whole production. It's just hey, here's a live event. And funny point is the fans, patting Ric Flair when Terry Funk threw him over the guardrail there. Um, you would never see that. You don't see that at all anymore, right? And it's cool to kind of see that again. But no, excellent, excellent pick.
All right. Well, it's my pick next week, and I had this one planned. This kind of goes well with this what we reviewed this week in a way. Anyway, we are going to go to the Thunderdome.
Oh no.
What
Oh
are you
no.
what are you doing what are you doing to Matt?
No, and it's not the Thunderdome from today.
It's not the WWE Thunderdome. We are going to go to the WCW Thunderdome. And we are going to stay in 1989, but we're going to go to Halloween Havoc, and we are going to
Oh,
review the Road Warriors versus the Great Muta and Terry Funk.
oh, I'm excited. I am
I'm
excited.
down. Anything with Great Muta, we are down.
Of course, you would be.
And I just want to say one more thing, going back on because you know what? Now that I look at it, I forgot when I asked you why you picked this match, Matt. I thought
Yeah.
you were going to say because a couple weeks ago we got into a conversation because I sent you a picture of Terry Funk and he had 6-pack abs,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like, I don't remember him ever having 6-pack abs, and we pinpointed it to this point in his career where he was in excellent shape. So I
Well,
look forward to seeing him team up with the Great Muta, taking on the Road Warriors in a Thunderdome.
Yeah,
see,
I'm
see, you
Halloween
send me
Havoc.
that picture.
Halloween Havoc was one of my favorite WCW
Me too.
shows, so I'm excited for this.
And
Definitely.
it's we're in Halloween season, so what better time to review
There you
Halloween Havoc?
go. Exactly.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah,
next week we will see you and the Thunderdome on the Three Falls podcast. I'm Derek.
I'm at.
And I'm Punga.
Take care.
Be all right.
Thanks for having me.